So in this tutorial, we're going to talk about the type tool in Photoshop. The type tool is the T in your toolbar right underneath the pen tool. The two kind of go hand in hand. Now, the type tool is not a very exciting tool in the sense that it functions kind of like a glorified Microsoft Word, but this tutorial is going to show you guys where all of the features live, because if we don't know where they live and we don't know how to adjust them, we can't start to make good type in Photoshop. Now, type is absolutely critical. As we talked about in the lecture, good fonts, size, and placement of text can really go a long way in communicating for your project. I'm a huge fan of fonts. I have a very deep font library, something of like 4,000 fonts. And so it's my passion then to find a font that communicates the essence of my project, to manipulate that font, to make it work even more for what my goals are for that project. Every project is a good chance to find a brand new font. Let's jump into Photoshop here. I'm going to walk you guys through the basics of the type tool, and then I'm going to show you guys how we can merge the use of the pen tool and the type tool to start to create our own customized fonts. So let's head in there. Let's go ahead and make a WebLarge artboard to get started. The first thing we want to do is select the type tool. It's the T right here underneath the pen tool. Now, if you click and hold or right click, you'll notice 4 different types of type tools. The horizontal type tool, the vertical type tool, and then different types of mask type tools that we're not going to talk about in this unit. Now, horizontal and vertical type, these do exactly as they sound. One types across the screen, left to right, that's horizontal, and one types fonts up and down. The nice part is I'll show you later how we can just toggle between these after we've typed something. So by default, the horizontal type tool is all that we need it to be. Now, when you hover over your artboard with your type tool selected, you should see a typical cursor appear. Now, to start typing, we have to click somewhere in our artboard. New to the newer versions of Photoshop, we have the lorem ipsum default text there, already highlighted in black, ready for us to type something. Now go ahead and type something, anything. I'm going to go ahead and type my last name in all caps. Now I believe your font defaults to Myriad Pro, and I believe it's something small like 10-point font. So we need to make sure that we understand the option bar for the type tool. In order to change anything that we've typed, it's good form to have it highlighted. Now, if you've clicked off of it, say you've gone to a different tool and you've moved it around, and you want to re-highlight your text to change, to bring it back up in the option bar, look over in your layer panel. We notice now that we see a layer, a text layer, notated by the T in the layer thumbnail, and the layer name is automatically what we've typed out. Now, if you have an entire paragraph typed out, it gives you like the first 5 words and then a dot, dot, dot. You can still rename your layers, anything you'd like, and it's not going to change what you've typed. It's just that by default, the name of the layer is what you've typed. Now, to highlight our text here for changes, you can simply double-click the T icon on your layer. That automatically highlights your text, brings back up the type tool, and our option bar ready for changes. Now, I'm going to cover everything in the option bar here in a second, but I want to first start by making our text the proper size. It defaults to 10-point font. It's way too small for a WebLarge artboard. Let's go ahead and just increase the size. Now, if we toggle down this pull down here, we see font sizes ranging from 6 all the way to 72. Go ahead and make this 72-point font. Now, that's decent, but it's not as big as I would like it to be. But wait, we cap out at 72. Does that mean that we can't make our fonts any bigger than 72 points? No, it doesn't. We could do one of 2 things. We could either type in any number here where it says 72 points. We could type in, say, 250 and hit enter, and now our font is 250 points in size. The reason why I don't like this method as much is because it's a lot of guesswork to figure out how big we want our text in terms of points. I don't necessarily know what 250 point text looks like unless I type it in. So the way I actually like to change the size of my font on the fly is to actually use the big T, little t icon as a slider. If you have your text selected, hover over your big T, little t, and you'll notice that your mouse turns into a side-to-side arrow and a finger. If you click and drag left, your font will change in a smaller size. If you click and drag to the right, your font will get bigger, all the way until it's absolutely massive. So I like using the big T, little t icon as a slider to change the size of my text. Let's go ahead and make this a proper size to be big enough to fit kind of in the center of our artboard, similar to mine. Good. Now double click your T again if it's not highlighted, and let's talk about the other things that we have available in our option bar. Let's start at the very left. We see a T here with a downward facing arrow and a right facing arrow. This changes our text to be horizontal or vertical, just like I told you guys in the beginning about our horizontal and vertical type tools. So what's nice is we can change this on the fly just by pressing this button. In my opinion, it's seldom that we really need vertical text. It's kind of an outdated thing, but it's nice to know that it's there should we or a client need it. I'm going to keep mine horizontal for now. The next pull down after that is our font pull down. Now, as you can see, I have a lot of fonts. You guys may not have a lot of fonts depending on whether you've taken time to download them or not. The pre-installed fonts on any computer tend to be a little lackluster, meaning they're not very creative or exciting. I tend to not like pre-existing fonts. Like I've said before, and I said in the lecture, every project is a great time to find a new font. Now, one of my favorite pre-installed fonts on a PC, that is Franklin Gothic Demi. Franklin Gothic Demi. The Franklin Gothic series of fonts, I think, is a great sans serif font. It's kind of bold by default, and it's really neutral. It's a great jumping off point for any type of text, and it looks great big, and it looks great small. Those of you on a Mac, Franklin Gothic does not come pre-installed for you, but I do know that like on DaFont or Font Squirrel, you can find a Franklin Gothic ripoff that will allow you to have a similar looking font. Helvetica and Arial Bold also do a decent job at this. So take a second. I want you guys to find a font on your computers that communicates the essence of what you've written. Okay, so now that we've chosen a font that we like, let's start talking about the other things that we have in our option bar. So we've changed our font to be something that we like, and now next to it we have a pull down that defaults to regular. And depending on the font you guys chose, all it has here is regular. Mine has regular and italic. This is the fonts in the font family. So when you have a font, you have different things like regular, bold, italic, condensed, medium, book, etc., etc. These are the font families, the members of the families in that font. Some fonts have many members of that family. Some fonts only have regular. Usually the more fancier the font, the less members of the family that it has. Don't worry if yours only has regular. That's not a big deal at all. Many fonts only have regular. I'll show you guys in a second how we can force italic or force bold different fonts, even if they don't have that member of the family. I'm going to keep mine regular for now. So we've talked about the font pull down, the font family pull down. We already learned how to change the size. Let's jump on over to changing the color of our text. Now there's a black box here. It might be white depending on what your program defaults to. But when your text is highlighted and you click on this box, the color picker window comes up just as we are used to it. And with this, we can change both the hue and the shade of that color. And when we hit OK, our text is now that color. Go ahead and change your text to be a color that you like. Go ahead and double click your T to highlight your text again, and let's keep talking about our option bar. Next to the left of our color picker window, we have our justification settings. Left justified, center justified, and right justified, just as if this were a paragraph in Microsoft Word. Now for single word text, I tend to like center justified, because when I type something, it types from center as opposed to typing from right or left. But there's really no wrong justification setting. It's really just what you're needing for your project. If I were typing an entire paragraph of text, I probably would have it left aligned rather than centered. To the left of our justification settings, we have two little A's and a pull down that defaults to sharp. Now this is how Photoshop kind of renders the edges of our text. I have found sharp to be the most pleasing and the most, sharp. I never change this, but it's worth knowing what it does if you guys ever want to play around with that to make your text look just a little bit different, crisper, stronger, or smoother. I'm going to keep this on sharp. Okay, so we've talked about now, let me highlight this again. We've talked about now the entirety of the option bar up to this latter third over here to the right. But we can now change whether it's horizontal or vertical. We can change our font, the font family, the size of our text, how the edges are rendered, the justification of our text, and the color. And that's really what I want you guys to be aware of at the start here, is how to adjust the basics of our text in getting started. So in the next tutorial, we're going to take this even further. We're going to finish out these different elements in the option bar, and I'm going to take you guys then into a whole new panel that gives us even more options on editing our text. So play with this for a little bit and then move on to the next tutorial when you guys are ready.